So yeah, let's get started. Um, so yeah, we're going to be there together for an hour. I don't have anything planned after, so we'll keep questions open. But the idea here for me today is to kind of share a bunch of insights on how to sell from home, what we call inside sales, which is often done actually from an office, but now we are kind of all forced to go and sell from home. So a bit of kind of housekeeping in terms of what we're going to do. If you have any question, just go in the chat and then type it in there, or you can raise your hand. I cannot guarantee that I will see when you raise your hand, but if I see it, I'll go there. And then, just like if any question comes up, just interrupt me. We'll try to make it as fun as possible. And yeah, so let's get started with that. So selling from home, a guide to force inside sales. So first, a bit about me. So my name is Thibaut Suris. I'm the CEO and founder of Sales Labs, which is like a sales training company made of only me. So I'm training and coaching salespeople to start more conversations and turn them into revenue. So it's basically like that's kind of a fun way to say I help people prospect, book first like net new meetings, and I help these people then closing these net new meetings. My focus is on kind of two different areas. I really love social selling, especially on LinkedIn, which is very powerful. And I'm not going to cover that too much in details, but I have another webinar where I talk about that. And the second thing is like helping companies going from SMB, selling small deals, let's say maximum 12,000 euro deals, to bigger deals like 100,000 euro annual contract value, which is what we call mid-market. So that's my definition of it. But we'll see. Maybe my job will come to change to become more helping people to survive with sales. So because sales is like one of the it's one of the core things in business, and especially nowadays it's even more core. So yeah, we have some kind of crazy situation going on, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of great opportunities there. The thing is, we're all alive for now, so I think it's really cool. So what you can do if you don't have me on LinkedIn, I would really recommend that you go and add me. That would really surprise me that you don't have me on LinkedIn. Like everyone here, I'm pretty sure you're on LinkedIn. If you want to drop a small message, talk, and tag me, that would be great. So people can know that I'm actually delivering this webinar. It can increase my visibility. And so yeah, that's you can try and add me on LinkedIn. No matter what, you'll receive the recording of this webinar on your email. And all the content that is with that. Good. So let's get started. So does anyone know here in the audience what a Black Swan event is? You can raise your hands if you know. I'm just checking if people are. Octavio, you're the first one. Go ahead, Octavio. Let me. Go ahead. We can't hear you. You have to unmute yourself, Octavio.
Hello, you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So the Black Swan event is this event that is completely, or not completely random, but completely unexpected. That definitely disrupt the I don't know, the economy or the markets and so on. So it's basically a very big, influential event that was completely random or unexpected.
Exactly. So I would add to that. So it's like this kind of unexpected event that has massive consequences. And when it's going to be over, people will say, "Oh, we knew it would come. It would be coming." So people will rationalize that it was actually coming. And so there's kind of I've read a lot about that. And what's happening to us with this kind of virus is what we call also like a gray rhino. So there was kind of signs about that. Maybe you saw a TED talk of Bill Gates about it, and that's kind of we were long due for this kind of thing. And so everyone's kind of freaking out right now. So that's like pretty normal knowing what's happening, but I'm pretty sure you've seen that a lot. I'm actually very lucky to live in an area where people are, it's not so crowded. So I didn't see so much, like toilet paper obviously is out. Pasta was actually in today, but everyone is really seriously freaking out. And that's very interesting to see because it's like it's very uncommon and it feels like a wartime. So for me, it's like kind of scary, and sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen, but I really see it like as an unprecedented opportunity. So the reason for that is if you look around you, everything is shutting down. Everyone is kind of really scared and panicking, which means like your competition has been wiped out. There's no more competition. Everyone for now, like for the next few days, everyone is really scared. And it means if you actually pick up yourself and you can start, fixing this kind of thing and working on kind of staying afloat and adapting, you'll have crazy opportunities. I can give you examples of opportunities like an example for me, it's an opportunity where everyone's on LinkedIn right now. So it's a great way for me to do my webinar. So I launched my webinar. The last one I had like around, I don't know, 60 signups, and it took me a week to get there. I went to 75 in 3 days with this one. So that's the kind of opportunity you get. It doesn't pay the bill for sure. But one thing that is interesting is that as the stock market is going a bit crazy, we had like kind of real estate bubble, or things were going crazy. When all of this is over, there's going to be a lot of great opportunities. And the idea is kind of to weather the storm and keep going there. So no more question. No, it's good. So for me, that's really the way I see it, is like, it's like I've been talking to a lot of founders who've been through this kind of crisis many times. So for example, my father, he's been like managing industrial businesses during like the bubble, internet bubble, during like the 9/11, and during the crisis of 2008. So he kind of like, it was very interesting to talk with him because it's very reassuring what it can what can be provided. But that's, I'm not going to talk so much in details about that. I'm going to show you how you can kind of work on your business and get more business coming in for now. So the idea is, the structure of this webinar will be around mindset shifts in sales, how to run a kick-ass discovery call, and tools to run your inside sales org. So the big focus will be on the discovery call and how you can actually do it differently. And so my idea there in terms of mindset shift is that right now things are a bit different. And so in general, I talk about mindset shifts. It's more about like what kind of mindset shifts you need to have in terms of sales and how you approach that. Things are a bit different now, and it's going to make that a bit easier, I think. So one thing is, it's not business as usual. If you look at the news, I'm sure everyone kind of started watching the news more than usual. Myself, I stopped watching the news a while ago, and now I'm just like all on that. So I'm kind of working, being mindful of that and not doing that too much. But the thing is, right now, there's no more decisions that are being made. So if there's a decision, it's a decision to cut business, to cut costs and everything. And so you can't go and ask people to make decisions. There's a lot of risk and uncertainty, which is what is make people kind of stop decisions. If we knew what would happen, if we knew, okay, we have to kind of stop business for 3 years, we'd be able to say, okay, we have, that's our reality, we can work with these kind of parameters. Right now it's not the case. We don't know what's going to happen, which is why no one's making decisions. But this is slowly going to stop. So everyone, people are still closing deals. That's something also observed. Myself, I closed a deal yesterday. Ara closed a deal yesterday. I know a lot of people who are regularly closing deals. So right now, there's still business happening. It's very low. If you're in certain industries like travel, it's very tough for you, but deals are still happening. And everyone, is kind of either freaking out or preparing for the recovery. That's what I decided to do. Personally, I'm going to shoot videos if we're not in lockdown in Germany on Saturday. I'm working on my new website, new content. So, I'm preparing for the recovery, because if things happen, and we're able to kind of manage this situation, the recovery will be quite crazy. And I can tell you, forget your holidays, like your summer holidays, because everyone will try to make business and recover from that. And I think that's going to be pretty exciting. So anyone has a question? If you have a question, you can raise your hand. Go ahead. I'm just going to check that. Looks like no one has questions. Good. So it's time for housekeeping. One thing that is amazing with No More Commute is we have more time. Personally, I did my home office in the living room, and I think I'm not going to go back to work after to my office. It's so amazing. It's like I just have my setup there. It feels very comfortable, and it's like I wake up, I dress up, and then I'm there, and it's just perfect. I can take call without disturbing anyone because I'm in my home. I can do podcast recording. So for me, it's amazing. But one thing that is also very cool is we have time to slow down and reflect right now. So if you're not freaking out, you have the choice to kind of freak out or stop and reflect. There are so many things we had to do that we can do right now. So when I'm talking housekeeping, it's more like in terms of business, but I'm sure you also are able to do the housekeeping in your house, which is also a very good side effect of all of this. But the idea is that we can really focus on taking a bit of time away. And the idea there is that it's very interesting because we can't, it's not going to be about um, calling people all the time and just like in the grind of our daily life. Most of our daily life is kind of gone, and now we have time to reflect. So it's a bit freaking, it's a bit weird because we have so much time with ourselves, and we for a lot of us, we're not used to that. But I think it's a really great time to slow down, reflect, and think a bit about what you want to do, and how you want to approach sales, because we still have to reach targets. When things will slow down a bit, everything will get better, and we'll still have to go back and kind of hit our targets. So, and for me, I think it's a perfect time to start conversations. Um, you have to take it, with a pinch of like of caution. Is like you can't go call people and say, hey, do you want to buy my software for whatever. It's like you have to be able to really call people and kind of engage with them and ask what's happening for them. So everyone's kind of in panic mode, but people tend to answer way more. That's something I observed. I talked with many people, sent a bunch of emails. Everyone's like, hey, right now it's not the right time, but let's call later, which is something I never get in general. So when most people don't answer, at least they're the answer. One thing that is important also if you start your conversation is to avoid starting it with, hey, it's coronavirus, what's happening with you? Everyone knows about that. Everyone starts talking about work from home and everything. Try to be different. Like it's already a pattern right now that is kind of recognized by our brains. If you go on LinkedIn and someone, see a post of work from home, you're like, oh, great. Or if you see this kind of typical Zoom kind of screen capture where there's like, everyone in there, like doing a meeting, it's already getting old. So try, to be a bit different and ask people what's happening with them. So slowly people will actually kind of go out of this state of shock in which everyone is, and they will start accepting their new reality. And when that's the case, it's going to be a bit more stable, and people will actually make more decisions, no matter what's the kind of outcome that is expected. And one thing that is important to know is no one will care about your sales pitch right now. So no matter what you're selling, no one cares about this sales pitch, because they are all kind of trying to know how they will survive, know how will they take, they will keep going with the business. And so if you go and try to pitch them something, it's not going to work. But if you go and try to understand what's happening, what problems they are trying to solve, this is going to make it a lot easier. Good. So now let's talk about the more tactical thing. I talked about the kind of generic thing of a mindset. Now we're going to talk really in details about the discovery call. Remember, if you have any question, just go on the chat, type your question, or you can raise your hand there. And we'll go with that. Just going to grab a bit of water. Good. So how to run a quick discovery call and a quick reminder of what we're going to talk about there. So for me, this is like the typical sales process that I teach people, and that you can see in many things. So it can be for enterprise sales or mid-market or SMB, it's kind of more or less the same. You can have a bunch of new steps, but what's happening is in a sales process, you always start with a discovery. So it's a discovery call or meeting. In our case, it's always going to be a discovery call. And this discovery call is actually made to understand what's going to happen, and if the person is qualified to talk with you. Well, when you go that, once it's done, you go to a demo, which is not like a product demo or anything. It's more like a demo of the use case of how you can help people. Then you go into a contract review. So that's where you present a contract and kind of explain people how they can do, they can work with you and talk about pricing. You can talk about pricing before, but then you talk about detailed pricing, terms and condition. And then you have like negotiation, which is like the part where like you can be negotiating with the other party to close the business, and then it's close one. So it's very simplified, but that's more or less what the discovery, like the sales process looks like. And today we're going to talk only about discovery and focus really on that. So that's the key part of inside sales. Discovery is something where 80% of your sales process is kind of like of your deal is kind of played during the discovery. If you do a good one, you're going to be able to keep control and go through each stage one after the other. If you do a wrong one, you'll actually have long sales cycles. I often have people say, hey, my sales cycle varies from 1 month to 12 months. I can tell you, if it's the sales cycle of 12 months is like it's not a sales cycle, it's a dead deal. And it's like if you close 12 months, it's just someone at some point got the need and reopened the deal for you. So discovery call, what a discovery call is. So discovery, it's an initial conversation to understand if your offering can solve a problem for your customer. I repeat, it's an initial conversation to understand if your offering can solve a problem for your customer. It's not a demo, it's not a pitch, it's not somewhere when you're going to show how amazing your features are, how you're the best of the market, and how you're solving this thing. It's just an initial conversation. And more than ever, it's going to be important that you actually start conversations and do not try to pitch or whatever. Because as I said, in this day and time, no one cares about your pitch, no one cares about your product. They just care about how can they survive the crisis. And so that's really the goal of discovery. Normal time, that's what you have to do, but now more than ever. And it's a great opportunity to train these kind of skills, because it can be very, very unsettling if someone is like trying to pitch you something right now. So it's really about understand how, your offering can solve a problem for your customer. So the structure of a discovery call is very simple. So you have what I call the agenda agreement, the doctor's consultation, and teasing and next steps. The goal of a discovery call, there's one simple goal, is to go to next step, the demo. That's the only thing you do there. You're not trying to, as I said, to pitch or to convince anyone of anything. You're just trying to go to the next step. And by qualifying people you're actually talking with there. So step one, the agenda agreement. This is kind of like something inspired by something that in a methodology called Sandler. They call that the upfront contract. In my case, it's a bit simplified. It's something, because I find the upfront contract is something very strict and very strange. So for me, the agenda agreement is just a good way to start a first call that kind of diffuse all the tension around the kind of sales call you're having. So an agenda agreement, it's an easy way to start the call. And here's how you do it. So you state your goal for the call and you explain the possible outcomes. At the end of that, you ask for agreement of this call. And this looks very simply like that. So, hey, John, thanks for taking the time to speak with me today. The goal of my call is to understand how you're currently dealing with the situation and see how my solution can potentially help. At the end of this call, we should be able to decide if we continue the conversation with a collaboration in mind or if we stop it there. Sounds good to you? Now I need a volunteer to kind of try a role play with me on that. So who wants to do that? I see no one wants to do it. I'm going to pick someone then. It's going to be Elena. Elena, go ahead. You have to talk now. Hello? That's not working. Okay. The other one. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Elena. How are you doing?
Hi. I'm doing great. What about you?
Doing good. Doing webinars, you can see. So, so have you heard about this kind of thing? How to kind of start a first call with a prospect?
Yeah, did. I don't have. I'm not really experienced at it, but that's why I'm here.
Okay, great. So, I can try and do it with you, but like typically, I think we had a call yesterday.
Yes.
And how would you try to do that actually in this case? So the idea is to say, you thank me for my time, you explain your goal, and you kind of propose me outcomes and ask me if I'm good with that. You want to try and give it a shot?
Let's do it. So I would start with something like, hey, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me under the current circumstances. The goal for me is to understand how the current situation is in Berlin market with this new hard. That's hard.
Yeah.
Well, that's hard.
Okay.
Sorry.
So no, that's pretty good actually. You started pretty well, and that what you can state is one thing that works.
I try to state something current, so to mix with the news a bit, so it will be something that someone wants to reply, but I'm not good at it, I guess.
Can you repeat that?
I try to say something about the current situation in order to be more appealing, and everyone has something to say, about this. So maybe I would engage to a conversation.
Yeah, no, I think that was really good. So that was perfect how you said it. One thing that I always recommend is to always kind of say an outcome, like state the outcome. Say, hey, at the end of this call, we should be able to actually understand if we want to keep the conversation going or if we don't want to do it. Does it sound good for you? When you do this, you know, when you say sounds good to you, it's kind of a close-ended question, and most people will actually say yes. If they say no, it's good also because you know there's something that is wrong. But it's a good way to kind of diffuse the tension because you're kind of making a small contract with the person, and you know, like kind of going this way. So that's the way I see it. Like, you know, saying sounds good to you at the end. Yeah. So thanks, Elena, for participating. I know it's not easy, but you did a good job.
Thank you.
Cool. Good. So you know everyone. You can be asked to participate at any time. So moving further, again, if you have questions, and if you really, you know, if you need to, yeah, you can go and chat or wave your hand, and I'm going to be able to answer that. So step 2 is the kind of doctor's consultation. That's my favorite part, because it's something I've actually observed a lot with doctors, psychologists, and everything, where they use this framework really well, and they, you know, like they use a consultative selling kind of framework. Jan, you have a question? Go ahead. Yes, you need to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. So when it comes to a discovery call, do you also distinguish between a cold and a hot lead? For example, when he had already a touch point maybe with you, for example, he downloaded a checklist or he visited your homepage, is it then always the same kind of procedure for the discovery call, or do you distinguish?
So the discovery call is like, it's not really like a cold calling. This is, you know, it's a good question you asked, so I can clarify on that. This is more when someone agreed to have a call with you. So that's, you know, what I call pipeline creation is when, you know, you kind of try to get people to sit with you or, you know, take 10 to 15 minutes of their time to talk with you. That's when you do a discovery call. And the way you do discovery call can kind of, you know, it's a lot easier when it's an inbound because you have more information. And if someone actually signed up for a webinar or something, say you can say, hey, yeah, you know, they came to you and they asked for something specific. So there I would still use the same approach, but this kind of first agenda agreement is really a way to diffuse the tension you can have if it's like you who proactively try to contact this person. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank
cool.
you very much.
Thanks everyone. Please do like Jan. If you have any question, just like raise your hand. Good. Low hand, perfect. Good, doctor consultation. So this one is pretty cool, as I said already, because it's something that your doctors are doing there. So one thing that is very important in sales is to understand challenges. So find what challenges people are trying to understand, to face. So it's just like a doctor. Your goal is, you know, I can call that symptoms, but like the goal of this challenge identification is to see what they're trying to solve. And typically, like, the symptoms are general business problems. So it could be a consultant spending too much time doing paperwork, employees doing repetitive low value tasks, or SDS spending time looking for leads. So that's examples of problems you can see with businesses. But the thing is, with a doctor, coming back to the analogy, so if you go to a doctor right now and you say, you know, like you say, hey, I'm coughing, you know, I've got a bit of fever, everything. So they, you know, a good doctor will be like, a bad doctor will be like, okay, yeah, just go home, take some antibiotic or whatever, and you know, they're just going to try and treat symptoms. Right now, a good doctor, or any doctor, if you say you're there, they're going to say, okay, first put this mask. Second, you know, you're going to go and have to do a test, and they're going to try to understand where you know, are you back from Spain? Are you back from China? Have you been in contact with people who have a virus or whatever? So that's, you know, that's the idea. You have to do the same when you're in sales. So when someone says, hey, for example, you're selling like, if you're a team at Pleo, for example, and you have like a lot of consultants flying in normal times, what would happen at Pleo is that they will say, you know, your typical consultant, or, you know, the person you're going to try and talk with would say, hey, you know, I'm spending 3 hours a month doing paperwork. And if you're like a consultant from Deloitte or like one of the big four, you typically charge for, you know, from 500 to 1,500 euro an hour. So 3 hours is like around 4.5 hours lost. So that's kind of the idea of understanding that a bit more. I have like a question that popped here in the Q&A. What is a SDR? It's a sales development representative. So it's simply like someone who's who's doing cold calls, cold emailing, and trying to book meetings. So yeah, good, cool. So yeah, that's the idea. Then once you understand, you have an idea of the challenge, so you understand a bit more what's happening, what people are trying to solve. So let's take this use case for you at the people at Pleo. So for example, if you go and try to understand, you say, okay, this person is taking 3 hours a month, like scanning receipts and like doing printing receipts for the accountant and everything. You have a better idea, and the idea is to do a challenge quantification. So there, it's a very powerful way to kind of build a lot of weight to your offering. And like understand, you're like a doctor, you're trying to understand the root cause of the symptom. And if you can use, you can use numbers to quantify the challenge. So for example, you can understand how many hours I spent doing bookkeeping, customers, how many customers are paying late, employee engagement is too low, and this kind of thing. And these are kind of the framework you can use to build and quantify the challenges you're facing. So here, I'm going to tell you a story, which is like the story of of Tasha. So we had like a call, I think last Friday, and it was very interesting because here, she's actually selling online. Like she's in really cool business right now. So she built a platform with her team where they are selling, like organizing online recruitment events for universities in the US. So in the US, it's very common for universities to kind of organize recruitment fairs for their employees. So what they will do is like they will get sponsors from companies who are trying to recruit people, and what they're going to sell is like sell booth. So you're going to buy like a booth, and you're going to be able to see, have people talking with you and trying to kind of poach them or get the CV. And there's going to be sponsoring slots for big attendees like IBM or these kind of things. And so what we were talking there, we did the role play. Is I tried to understand what was the price, the typical price, they were having per booth. So I said, typically like how is the price per booth? So it's like, around 1,500 euro. How many booths they sell? It's like from 10 to 20 per event. And then I added like the number of sponsoring slots. So I think it's around 5 sponsoring slots. They are at 20,000. And then that actually give you the potential revenue loss per event. And then I multiply that by the number of events for a university, like 4 or 5, and then it gives you a total loss. So this is like a great kind of framework to understand and quantify a problem, a challenge. And in the case, we talked with that. So we did the role play where she was the person from the university, the HR, like building this kind of event. And I was the salesman. So we did the call, and what we found is that they were losing $520,000 because of the virus. So that's a huge problem they have right now. $500,000, that's, the revenue that they will potentially lose there. And I can tell you, everyone who's organizing events feels the pain exactly the same way. So if you have a way to take like a online event, in-person event to an online event for only 50,000 euro, I'm gonna, I can assure you they will go and they will talk with you. So that's a good way to kind of do a discovery call, is to kind of start with this typical kind of problem. So you first find the problem, and then you quantify the problem, so you give it a value. And sometimes it's not going to be that as straightforward. So you're not going to be able to kind of see like hourly price or unit price. But what you can work with is kind of work with what we call like a cost of opportunity. So try to understand what are they potentially losing, how much value do they kind of give to their time or the time of other people. But if it's in business in general, you have salaries which are very easy to kind of use for calculations. So that's a good way to do that. Anyone has a question on this framework? Looks like no one. Yes, I have a Q&A here. Thanks. Okay. Jan, you have a question. Go ahead. Let me just raise your hand. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. So do you basically use this to show the pain of like losing an opportunity? Do you kind of get what I'm trying to say? So you kind of try to quantify what would they lose if they do not continue talking to you, or do not continue doing, or do not do business with you, kind of.
Yeah. So that's there's different ways to do it, but like you can see like that in there it's more like how can they make sure they don't miss on revenue. You could also be how can they actually make more revenue if you were selling like a solution, I don't know, that on top of the booth you normally sell, I don't know, it increase the value of it by 2x, whatever, that could be an option. But the idea is always to kind of show how much money they can save or how much more money they can make. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Cool. Good. So next one, step 3. So it's teasing a next step. So if you've done a good discovery and you actually have done a good doctor consultation, there should be no kind of need to kind of push for anything. People will come to you and be like, oh my God, how can I work with you guys? So that's the idea there, is if you actually have this kind of thing done, and I understand it cannot be done all the time. So sometimes you won't be able to kind of have this drive and people will not be so excited. So that's a good indication that your discovery is not going so, it's actually going well, because this person is maybe not qualified, they don't have urgency, maybe they don't have budget, or they don't believe in what you're saying. So, but if you actually have done that well, people will actually ask you to pitch. And there, I strongly recommend to kind of work on a quick pitch and then push back. So here, once you've done that, you have the control of the process. Like people really want to work with you. You're the one who has all the cards in your hands. And the idea is to kind of keep as many cards as you can, and kind of leave the last card, which is like signing the contract at the last moment. So there, you give a little pitch, you say, hey, typically I think that could be a great use case for you. We have done this with XYZ company, and I think it's great if you kind of like implement, I don't know, this plan, the plan gold, or whatever thing you do, and then people will actually have a better idea of how you can do that, so you can answer a bunch of questions. But the idea there of this discovery call is to really stop and push back, because maybe you're talking to someone who doesn't make any decision, or you're talking to the wrong type of person, and the idea is to book a second meeting or call with the right person in the room. So with Zoom, actually it's super easy to do meetings like online meeting, but there it's locking next steps, so you have more leverage, you can push back and ask for the second thing. So here what I would do, never, if someone says, hey, send me a slide or send me this, never do that. The thing is, when people ask you to send you slides or send you an offer, what they often do is they try to get rid of you, because like a typical salesperson, if you say, hey, send me something, or let's do the call, they really feel like the buyer really feel like they're going to be sold something, so they say, hey, yes, send me an offer, and they keep back the control. So there I would really push back and say, hey, why don't we book times in calendar, and then you can kind of understand that. So sometimes you won't be able to kind of book a time in calendars with the person, because they need to sync with other people in the company. What I would do is, if you're in this case, is to actually book like a small summary. So if you say, hey, you want to book a time for next time, and they say, no, I need to check with my decision maker, for example, you can say, okay, how much time do you need to do that? And they will say, I don't know, 1 week. Say, okay, 1 week from now. So Wednesday, let's say on Thursday, we do a quick 15-minute call in the calendar. So you can tell me like if there's anything I can help you with to organize that. So the idea is always to get a minimum commitment from these people, and it's a time in calendar. And if they say, no, I'm going to come back to you, I don't want to book your time in calendar, you have a good idea that your deal is not that qualified, and that you can't really count on that, because they don't really want to invest at least 15 minutes or 5 minutes in a calendar to follow up with you. And so one question I really love, it's actually from a guy named John Barrows that I learned, is who else could be interested in learning more about our offering? So that is a great question, because you're going to be able to understand who's the decision maker or who is important in this decision process. Because when you're talking and doing a discovery call, sometimes you're not talking to a decision maker. Most of the time, actually, you're not. And when you ask that, people actually won't feel threatened, because if you go, for example, to a very, me, when I was working at Applause, if someone say, hey, who's making decisions? I would be like, I'm making decisions. But actually, I'm not making decisions. My boss who has the budget. And if they say, who's the decision maker? I'm going to say it's me. But by asking this kind of question, who else could be interested in learning more about our offering? I would typically have said, oh, maybe I need to talk with my boss. And in that case, you get a better idea of who's the decision maker. So that's, that's ways to lock next steps. Now I'm going to share a few Jedi mind tricks that are really powerful. Before that, any question, anyone? No, and we still have 38 attendees, so I guess this makes sense. Good. So here, this is a technique that comes from this book, Never Split the Difference, from Chris Voss. The next two techniques are coming from this thing. This mirroring is actually one of the most powerful thing ever. A mirroring is actually a great technique to get people to open up. So some people will naturally talk and they will be very affluent in talking and words. It's going to be very easy. And some will not. And one good way actually to talk, it's like in sales, we'll typically ask, okay, what have you tried to do about that? Tell me more about this. And sometimes people kind of hear and hear that it's a very salesy way to do that, and they will kind of not really like it. One good way to do that is to say and repeat the last 1 to 3 words of your prospect sentence with an upward or downward inflection. So I'd like to kind of play a role play to show you how it works there. So anyone wants to kind of play the game with me? I'm going to pick someone by, okay. Everyone's leaving now. So Uta, I picked you. If you're still there, do you want to play?
I am, of course, still here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you doing?
Perfect. I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm good. So how is the situation going for you?
Pretty smooth, actually, because we've always been a remote first company, and we are now remote only. So it's business as usual, I'd say.
Business as usual?
Yeah. I mean, we're working from home, but like it's no big deal for us because we have all the tools, we have the setup. We just moved location, if you will, from the office to our homes.
You move location from the office to your home?
Yeah.
Okay. And so how is it going for business?
Still pretty good. Of course, it's an exceptional situation, but the whole team is pretty supportive, and I think we're all sharing a lot of knowledge among each other and learn from each other. So it's going pretty well, actually.
It's going pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's very good. It's I used it once, the mirroring, 2 or 3 times. It worked once. So that's the idea there is to kind of repeat the last 1 to 3 words. So you want to try to do the same with me, where you kind of try to make me talk?
Yeah. Okay. So you said earlier on, I think that you think about not going back to the office, but staying at home because the setup works so well for you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What is it that works so well for you?
So I really love that I have, kind of my desk there. It's very kind of, I bought like a new chair, and, I can really work. So it looks much better than my office. I have like the library, and yeah, I really love it.
Yeah, you're completely right. I see your library there and it looks really cool. Absolutely.
Okay. So so you didn't really do a mirroring, and the problem with
No.
me is I'm someone who's very, very open and to talk. So I talk all the time. But one thing you can really try next time. So we won't do it there, but it's like to repeat the last 1 to 3 words of your prospect sentence if they don't really open up, I would say. So you can use an upward or downward inflection. So it's like, if you say, I don't know, you like working from home, or you like working from home. So this, makes it more dramatic, and people tend to kind of like answer a bit more there. So that's really a good technique, mirroring.
Yeah.
I'll also send a video of how kind of it's demoed by Chris Voss, and it's a really cool way to make it work.
Nice, cool, completely agree. It's just when you did it with me, I thought you don't hear me properly. I was like, is my microphone working? But okay.
Yeah, I tried it, and the thing is, sometimes when it's done, really well, you don't even realize. I mean, most of the time people don't realize it, and sometimes if you actually know I'm gonna do it and it's done really well, you don't realize it. So it's, but I'm not that much of an expert yet on that.
Yeah, but you definitely got my attention.
Yeah,
Cool thing.
cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Good. So now moving on. next mind Jedi trick is labeling. So this way, let me check if the person I did that recently to is okay. No, he's not there. Good. So labeling is really amazing. It's a great way to diffuse tension. So I have a cool story to share about that. I think it was on Monday. I talked with actually. I kind of did a podcast where it was a bit scandalous potentially. So kind of like I checked with someone, I say, hey, I did a podcast on your company. Here's the kind of the recording. And, he talked with me and he called me back and say, oh yeah, it's a cool podcast. We really like it. And, he was kind of showing me that he was like, he was turning around the subject and say, hey, yeah, I love it, but it's kind of neutral the way we feel about it and everything. And so I kind of felt like he was not really hyped by the podcast. And what I said is, say, it sounds like you don't want that I release the podcast. I just said that. I say, yeah, actually, it feels like it's not really clear what you can do. And I just like kind of diffused all the tension because he kind of wanted to tell me, please don't do it, but he didn't want to kind of force my hand. And what I did there, I kind of like understood, I said, hey, it sounds like you really want to, you really want me to not publish it. And the really cool thing is, yeah, he kind of explained what was the reason behind it. And I could really understand a bit more of that. So that's a really cool thing to try the labeling with your, whenever you're negotiating with someone or you're talking with someone and they're very aggressive or very defensive, you can try to label what's the feeling. So for example, I don't know, that's something we use a lot with Ara. Now we're in the home office together, so we have to make sure we negotiate and disarm any kind of tension. So we do a lot of labeling to each other, but it's a great way to kind of negotiate that. So what I would say, try with your quarantine partners to do this kind of thing, and it works really well. So you start the sentence, say, it sounds like, or it seems like, and you say, I've got the impression that you're doing, you're feeling this way. And often people will open up about that and find you very honest for this kind of thing. So next one is the open-ended versus closed-ended question. So here, open-ended question is any question that kind of implies like a full answer. So what have you tried to do about that? Why is it a problem for you? So it's a question you cannot answer by yes or no. And these are really great questions for opening up when you're talking with someone who's more kind of like extrovert. Like me, for example, if you ask me this kind of question, I'm going to talk forever. And this is a great way to kind of get people to open up. And the other close-ended question is also another great way to recenter the conversation. So people like me, for example, I'm going to talk, and then I'm going to go in other conversations, and you're not going to be able to kind of go where you want to go. So one good thing would be to use stuff like, do you agree, or does it sound good to you? So it's a good way to kind of like recenter the conversation. So you can say that's, like it's something where you kind of like introduce a new concept. You say, hey, why don't we talk about, your financial, do you agree? Does it sound good to you? Or, like this kind of agenda agreement I did first, it's, it's using like a close-ended question, and it's very kind of useful for, for kind of recentering the conversation. And then the final one, which is one of the most powerful one, and which is also one of the great skills like of great salespeople, is active listening. This is super easy. It's like you just repeat what your prospect just said. So it's not like the mirroring where you say the last 1 to 3 words. You're just repeating what your prospect just said. So it shows you're paying attention. And there you can kind of reformulate with other words. But something that works really well is if someone tells me about something, I'm going to say, oh, so let me rephrase to be clear. So you're saying me that. And this is very, very powerful because it's like, it shows you're really thoughtful about what they actually said to you. And even what you can try to do is to try and say, you're telling me this, and say it wrong. And when you do that, they say, oh no, it's actually not what I meant. I meant this. And this kind of really helps clarifying like what you're talking about. And it's a very useful kind of Jedi mind trick. So now we're going to talk about tools to run your inside sales org. This is going to be like very basic tools that I kind of like to use, but I want to share them if you don't know about them. And is there any question there? Just go ahead, Q&A, or raise your hand. I've got Q&A here. No? Okay. Oh, good. Thanks. Yeah. Good. Perfect. No question. So tools to run your inside sales org. So this is, as you said, super basic. In terms of lead generation tools, as we have time a lot, I love to kind of use Hunter and Mailtester for finding emails. These are really cool tools right now because you kind of need to do that. Sales Navigator, now more than ever, is very useful to build lists. And something I really like to recommend is Crystal Knows. So Crystal Knows is a tool that you can use for understanding the personality of the person you're trying to approach. So I don't have it there, but it's actually a plugin you add on LinkedIn. And if I go to the profile of anyone I'm connected with, I can see a bit based on their kind of traits on the post they did, or kind of data. I don't know exactly how they do that, but I can understand a bit what they, what's their personality type. So there's a bunch of different kind of framework for personality types, but they will tell you, give you advice on how to talk to people. Do you have to be like more direct or ask more, more questions, this kind of thing. So it's very useful to kind of change the way you approach people. Then there's Dash Dash. So there's a framework which is like in my newsletter sign up flow, which is a really cool framework where you can actually generate leads. If you don't have Sales Navigator, you can kind of build lists with that, with Crunchbase, and it's like using API calls. So you don't need to do like a Sales Navigator profile or to do like a Crunchbase profile, and you can build a lot of lead lists and use like Hunter, like the API of Hunter, to kind of like find let's say the CEO of the company, and then find the name, first name, last name, the domain name of the website, and then like generate like email and find this kind of thing. And then there's one thing that just appeared recently. It's called Cheetah IQ. This is super amazing. There, it's for social selling, or if you like really to kind of personalize your outreach, you can build like a list of top 50 accounts and people in these accounts you want to work with. You send that to them, and they send it back, and send that back to you. And actually what you can do is like have a RSS feed of, like what podcast they were on, or, if there's news and job posts or whatever news is kind of public in the company, it's aggregating all of that into a platform, and you can use it for very specific outreach. So something I really love, I really recommend. And the great thing is you can use that on your computer from anywhere. Now, in terms of outreach tools, so very simple, LinkedIn voicemail. Please use the LinkedIn voicemail. Let me just show you again how to use that. But this is so powerful that I just not, I need to share it again. So here, can I see? If you go in LinkedIn, you go to any message, you have like a small microphone type, just like in WhatsApp. You can record 60-second messages. It's insane. It's really powerful. It looks like whenever you record that, there's a small blue bar with a play button. So most people will actually hit that play button. It's very interesting. So I love also to use Vidyard. So now is the time we're stuck inside to kind of practice how you talk, how you present yourself. Lovely. Video Ask is very similar. The good thing with Vidyard is kind of integrated with many CRMs like HubSpot. So it's pretty cool. And one thing, if you actually do a lot of video, go on Wistia. The Wistia blog is actually very nice on how to do nice videos. So I can show you something. This is like a white kind of thing, light that I got from Wistia. That actually helps with lighting. It's much better, and apparently, it looks better. So these are really good resources. Then conversational tools. So this one's super basic. Zoom. If you don't have Zoom, go on Zoom. It's really nice. You have like a freemium account where you can talk for 60 minutes. It's just the best, really. You can do like whiteboard. So really for me, it's just the best. And if it doesn't work, Zoom, you have Hangout. That also works well. And if you need to do a mass, a lot of cold calling, you can use Aircall, which is like also a French kind of a company that has built like a platform where you can do a lot of calls, and it's like for sales teams, like inside sales teams or customer service teams. So really nice. Any question? Love that book. Oh, could my felda. That's all the yeah. Any question from anyone? No, I guess that's good. And now, final words. So yeah, I think we almost there. Yeah, so for me, I just wanted to kind of like thank you for being there. What I'm going to be doing is like I'm going to do webinars every week. So every Wednesday, there's going to be a webinar at 5. Next week is actually going to be with Skip Miller. So we're going to do a webinar on how to sell in kind of a tough crisis time. So Skip, if you don't know about him, I'm always talking about him. He's the guy who actually inspired me to start my business and start doing sales training. He's just a legend. So if you can really spend 1 hour with him, it's going to be so much, so much value for your time. So I really recommend doing that. The seats will actually go really fast because he's kind of very very, very known. But yeah, I'm going to do that. The week after, I don't know yet with which guest, but I'm going to really kind of try to do as many webinars as I can to really help you, use resources and try to sell your way out of this crisis. And one thing I'm actually willing to do is, if now you actually need a free coaching session, it's free, because I know no one's making decisions. You can go and book me on my meeting link. So you can take 30 minutes on my calendar, and we can go through like any coaching session, how you want to do your discovery call, your demo calls. If you have a recording of your calls, I would be amazed to actually listen to them. And the idea for me is really kind of to help you going through that, because I know whenever we're going to be done with this kind of crisis, things will kind of go much better. I'm going to be happy to help you there also. So just, if you need that, just book me there. It's bit.ly meeting Thibaut. Very easy. Or you can scan this QR code. And yeah, so that's about it for me.